Mother was the island's first guardian. The source flows through a protector like an electrical current. Think of the island like a power grid. If the source is power station, then a protector is the transformer in which the electricity flows through to power the area. It is implied, based on the way Mother devastated the man in Black's village, that she was a smoke monster too. She described entering the source as a fate worse than death, which means she knows precisely what it is like to be transformed. Becoming a smoke monster is eternal purgatory. And for untold centuries Mother lived this way and guarded the light. By the time Claudia arrives in Across the Sea, Mother is more than ready to hang up her spurs. So she raises two boys. One as a son, the other as a replacement. But it was never Mother's place to choose her own replacement. A protector is preordained to take the position. A guardian of the source is someone who has a deeper connection to it in some way. Like Hurley and Walt, they are unconsciously tuned into the electromagnetic frequency of the source, which gives them certain abilities that a protector would have, by drawing in the source's energy into themselves. Powers manifest in various forms. From talking to ghosts to astral projecting themselves across distances. When a person becomes an island protector, they gain a deep awareness of the light within themselves and can even control and manipulate its electromagnetic properties. They can also activate the light within other people through touch, which can either stop aging in its tracks or literally draw people back towards the source like metal to a giant magnet. This power is what Mother passed on to Jacob. It wasn't the drinking of the wine that imbued Jacob with this power. It was her touch during the ceremony. She activated him, just as he would go on to activate the light in others. It is a transfer of power through body and mind. Through consciousness. Mother wanted to pass on her guardianship without the smoke monster curse. This passing of the torch rendered her both powerless and mortal as a result. She was relieved, even grateful, to finally die. But something happened after her death that was beyond her control. Jacob's grief led him to avenge her death. By throwing the man in black into the water, his body was carried along by the stream and directly into the aperture of the source itself, creating yet another smoke monster. A smoke monster who wanted nothing more than to leave the island. But since smoke monsters are bound to the light, and guardians like Jacob can harness and control the properties connected to the light, the man in black essentially becomes a prisoner of his own brother, unable to escape. Jacob could create rules that the man in black was bound to follow. The electromagnetic energy beneath the island emits heavy levels of radiation. Get too close to it and you risk being blasted by a heavy dose. But if you actually enter the pocket of light itself, then you will suffer a fate far worse than death. If the light inside of us is our consciousness which returns to the source in death, what happens to that consciousness inside someone if they entered the source directly like the man in black did? Their physical body dies, but their consciousness does not. The light within you is uncoupled from your body and spat out. Locked out, exiled for all time, and the light that was once within you becomes darkness. That is what the smoke monster is. Pure disembodied consciousness roaming the landscape. This is why the man in black can only take the form of dead people and animals, because the light that was once in a dead body has returned to the source. Therefore the man in black's exiled consciousness can replicate those vessels because they are effectively empty. Devoid of occupants. The man in black has now become bound to the light in a totally different way from the rest of us. The source essentially powers him like an eternal battery that will never run out of juice. He can no longer return to the source in death, where rebirth awaits, and has essentially become the sum total of his old memories and emotions. As he scans more and more people in his smoke monster form throughout the centuries, he gradually absorbs their memories and becomes an embodiment of the past itself. The most powerful driving force within him remains the desire to escape this prison and his jailer. Jacob's personal growth and guilt most likely took centuries to come to terms with. He initially tried to bring people to the island, to help him prove his brother wrong about human nature and the island's purpose in the grand scheme of existence. But this only ever ended in death, carnage and corruption, often with a helping hand from the man in black. Judging from the Egyptian hieroglyphics beneath the temple, he managed to convince the Egyptian colonists that he was a deity of some kind. He was worshipped as such. No doubt, he influenced them to find a way off the island for him, including excavating the site where the Orchid Station would eventually stand and completing his work on the donkey wheel. The first operation of this wheel would have confirmed to the man in black that he could not escape the island by using the light. As a conduit for the source, Jacob was often guided by it. Knowledge would come to him like an intuition or instinct, leading him to make decisions based around these ethereal instructions. He always knew where to be and what needed to be done. Whether that was instructing the others to build a runway that would not be used for another 3 years, or knowing where and when to be to activate candidates. Jacob understood that he was part of something much bigger than himself and his game with the man in black. He was helping the source to avoid a catastrophic series of events in the future, weaving a tapestry across time and ensuring that destiny happens on schedule. At the same time, the man in black was growing in malevolence and hatching a scheme to exploit a loophole in Jacob's rules. We know that his ultimate goal was to kill Jacob and all of the candidates that could replace him as protector so nothing could prevent him from escaping. The problem was, the man in black could not do any of this himself. Candidates remain protected by Jacob's touch, which means they cannot die until they have fulfilled their purpose, whatever that may be within the tapestry of time. Some people have a grand destiny to fulfill. Jack was destined to save the world while other people, like Boone for instance, are simply destined to die in order to move the chain of events forward. Had Boone not been injured and killed when he was, Locke would never have had reason to bang on the hatch door in despair, which in turn would not have stopped Desmond from killing himself down in the Swan. Boone's death ensured that the button continued to be pushed so that world did not end. So, Boone's purpose on the island was to die. These are indeed sacrifices that the island demands in order to maintain the timeline and its own existence, survival, and the survival of the entire world. Everyone plays both big and small parts in this grand design, but no candidate can die until their specific purpose has been achieved. No matter how hard the man in black tries, he will not be able to kill them. So, in order for him to accomplish an impossible task, he needed a loophole. More specifically, he needed to become a candidate himself, in order to gain access to where Jacob was. And he needed a motivated anti-candidate to carry out the deed. After Richard Alpert's attempt on his life in 1867, Jacob came to understand how serious and determined his brother had become in trying to kill him, so he went into hiding and anointed Richard as his intermediary to help guide future island visitors. Over a century later, Horace Goodspeed's cabin becomes a drop point from Jacob's messages for Richard. It is the only place on the island that anyone knows of Jacob having used, and it becomes a focal point for the man in black's loophole. John Locke was chosen to be the vessel for the man in black because Locke was both a very special candidate and amenable for coercion. Benjamin Linus was selected as the anti-candidate since he demonstrated a pattern of intense jealousy and treachery with a penchant for usurping his own leaders and betraying his own people. The man in black started occupying the cabin with the specific goal of manipulating these two men into believing that he was Jacob and they should follow his every instruction. All in service of motivating Ben to murder and setting up Locke's demise. Unbeknownst to the man in black, a plan to destroy him was already in motion and, in fact, a part of the tapestry of time. His plan was a micro-functioning but crucial component of the island's master plan. Because the only way to destroy the man in black is to switch off the battery that powers him. Unlike his mother, he was never a protector of the island and could not simply pass the torch in order to become mortal. To kill him once and for all, it essentially means unplugging the source, which in turn depowers the man in black, making him mortal once again. In order to accomplish this endgame plan, Jacob would need to make the ultimate sacrifice for the island to create the causal chain of events. So, the man in black's murder plot had to play out and be successful. A plot the man in black had been working on for a very long time. You can see the grim resignation on Jacob's face when fake Locke emerges in the statue with a bloodthirsty Ben. The consequences of his impulsive actions from centuries past have finally come calling. After Jacob is killed, it is the equivalent of the transformer to the power station blowing up. The juice can no longer effectively circulate around the island. This allows for an infection to spread through the island's bloodstream. The smoke monster's essence muddies the water, literally. But with the candidates already in place and Charles Widmore bringing Jacob's failsafe to the island, aka Desmond Hume, the plan was already in motion to stop him. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for Chapter 3 when we explore the time loop of Season 5, and how that is the scientific basis behind the nature of destiny. Until then, stay lost.